All right, so get this. We're diving deep into AI today, but not the usual tech talk, you know? We're going to be exploring how this like philosophy called pluralism could totally change the way we think about artificial intelligence. And to help us with this, we've got some really cool material from this philosopher, Isaiah Berlin. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yeah. Berlin's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
Really concerned with how different values shape human societies. But what I think is really cool is how these ideas, rooted in like human nature, can be applied to something like AI. It's like we're building this bridge from ancient philosophy to the future of technology.
I like that, a bridge. Okay, so before we build that bridge, though, maybe we should like break down pluralism a little bit. I'll be honest, it sounds kind of intimidating. What's the core idea here?
Okay, so pluralism, basically, it's this idea that there isn't just one right answer, one single path to the good life. Instead, it like recognizes that there are many different values that humans hold dear, and sometimes those values even clash. Think of it like a vibrant tapestry, woven from all these different threads of beliefs and aspirations.
Okay, so instead of aiming for some kind of like uniform utopia where everybody thinks the same way, we're acknowledging the richness and the complexity of all these different viewpoints.
Exactly. And Berlin argued that these values, they weren't just like subjective preferences, like choosing your favorite ice cream flavor or something. They're like deeply rooted in what it means to be human, reflecting our fundamental needs and aspirations.
I see. Now, how does this whole like mini truths thing translate over to AI? It seems like most AI we hear about is laser focused on finding the single most efficient solution.
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. Like imagine if instead of programming AI with just a single objective or a single set of values, we designed it to embrace this whole idea of pluralism. What if AI agents could actually recognize and grapple with tons of different perspectives, just like humans do in like a complex society?
So we're not talking about like one super intelligent AI calling all the shots. We're thinking about multiple AI agents, each with their own take on things.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we get into swarm intelligence, where you have individual AI agents, each with their own little set of values or priorities. And they like interact and collaborate to find solutions, kind of like a diverse team.
Yeah.
Everyone bringing their unique expertise to the table.
Hold on. So instead of having one AI overlord, we've got a whole bunch of AI agents running around, each with their own opinions, working together. It's like a digital democracy or something.
Yeah. It is a powerful analogy. And this approach, rooted in pluralism, could lead to some crazy breakthroughs. Imagine AI systems that are more adaptable, more resilient, and less prone to those like catastrophic errors that can happen when there's just one single point of failure.
Okay. I'm starting to get how this could work. But why was Berlin so wary of the opposite, what he called monism? The idea that there's just one right answer. How does that relate to the potential dangers of AI?
So Berlin saw monism as like a potential threat to individual liberty and social progress. Like if everybody believes there's only one correct way of thinking, then it becomes really easy to justify forcing that viewpoint onto other people, even through force. And in the context of AI, a monistic approach could lead to these really powerful systems that just aren't flexible and ultimately fail to actually serve the needs of all of humanity.
Yeah, I see the problem there. I mean, we've all seen those sci-fi movies where like a single AI takes over and tries to control everything.
Yeah.
But if we're programming AI with this pluralism idea, all these different values, maybe we can avoid that dystopian future.
That's the hope. By embracing pluralism in AI, we're not just aiming for machines that are smarter. We're aiming for machines that are more in tune with how complex and how rich human societies really are.
This is blowing my mind a little bit. But hold on. How do we actually build this pluralistic AI? It sounds amazing, but where do we even begin?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a challenge that's drawing researchers from all over the place, computer science, philosophy, even psychology. One approach is to actually look at how we humans make decisions, when we're faced with competing values.
So instead of trying to program like a perfect set of ethics into AI, we're looking at how us messy real-world humans actually handle these tough choices.
Exactly. Think about how diplomats negotiate treaties, how judges weigh legal arguments, how community organizers build consensus. All of these are examples of people actually grappling with pluralism in action. And if we can figure out how those processes work, it might give us some clues for designing AI that can do the same thing.
So we're basically trying to like reverse engineer human wisdom and translate that into algorithms. That's pretty fascinating. It also sounds super complex.
It is complex, but that's what makes it so exciting. One promising avenue is using machine learning, to train AI on huge data sets of human moral reasoning. We can feed it all these examples of how people have navigated ethical dilemmas in the past. And it can learn from all of our collective experience.
Wow, so it's like we're giving AI this crash course in human ethics, letting it learn from all of our successes, and hopefully our mistakes too. But what if the data we're giving it is biased or incomplete?
That is a critical point, and it really highlights how important it is to have diverse and representative data. We can't just feed AI this narrow slice of human experience. It needs a balanced diet of ethical examples to learn from the full spectrum of human values and perspectives.
So it's not just about the quantity of data, but also the quality and the diversity of that data. Makes sense. This brings up another question, though. If we're teaching AI to think like us, warts and all, couldn't that lead to AI inheriting all of our flaws too?
It's a valid concern, for sure. Remember, AI is a tool, and like any tool, it reflects the intentions and biases of its creators. If we want to build ethical AI, we need to be really careful about the data we use, the algorithms we design, and the values that we're embedding into these systems.
It's a lot of responsibility. It sounds like building this pluralistic AI isn't just a technical challenge, it's a societal one. We need to have a serious conversation about what kind of future we want AI to help us create.
Absolutely. And that conversation needs to include everyone, drawing on perspectives from all walks of life, not just from the tech industry, because ultimately the future of AI is not predetermined. It's up to us to shape it in a way that reflects our shared values and aspirations.
Well, let's bring it back to Berlin and this idea of pluralism for a second. He seemed really interested in the idea that sincerity, truly believing what you say, is a pretty new value in human history. How does that play into AI development?
That is a fascinating point. Berlin argued that before the 18th century, people were more focused on being correct than being sincere. Like if you had a belief that was just factually wrong, it didn't really matter how strongly you felt about it. But with the rise of pluralism, sincerity became more and more important. The idea that even if someone's wrong, their genuine belief still matters, that's a new idea.
It's like saying it's okay to be wrong as long as you're honest about it.
Yeah.
But how do we even start to teach AI to recognize sincerity? Especially when humans are so good at faking it.
That's a tough one. It would require AI that can go way beyond just, basic analysis of language. It would need to understand the nuances of human communication, recognizing emotions, understanding social cues, even picking up on subtle contradictions.
So we're not just teaching AI to understand what we say, but why we say it. Like to grasp the beliefs and motivations that shape our words and actions. That seems incredibly complex.
It is. And it would require a fundamental shift in how we think about developing AI. Instead of just focusing on, completing tasks or efficiency, we'd have to prioritize AI that can understand and empathize with humans, even in our most messy and contradictory moments.
Like we're trying to build AI that can be a good friend, a good listener, someone who can challenge us, but still respect our right to believe different things.
Exactly. And that's where the insights of philosophers like Berlin can be so valuable. They help us see AI development not just as a tech problem, but as this profound philosophical and ethical one, too.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Pluralism swarms intelligence, the challenges of programming ethics into AI, even the importance of sincerity. But I've still got one big question. How do we ensure that this pluralistic AI, this amazing tech we're talking about, actually benefits all of humanity?
That's the most crucial question of all. And it brings us back to why pluralism is so important in the development process itself. We need diverse teams of researchers, ethicists, social scientists, policymakers, all working together to guide the development and use of AI.
So it's not just about building AI that's diverse in its thinking. It's about making sure that the entire field of AI is diverse in its people and perspectives.
Precisely. If we want AI that serves all of humanity, we need to make sure that the voices shaping it represent all of humanity too. Exactly. If we want AI that serves all of humanity, we need to make sure that the voices shaping it represent all of humanity too.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your take on a specific challenge. How do we balance individual freedom with the potential for AI to, kind of nudge us towards certain choices?
That's a key tension in any pluralistic society, right? On one hand, we want to protect individual freedom and autonomy, the freedom to make our own choices. But then on the other hand, we also recognize that, sometimes people make choices that might be harmful, either to themselves or to others.
Well, how do we apply that to AI? Are we talking about AI that acts as like a digital guardian angel, nudging us towards quote-unquote good choices?
Well, it's a delicate balance for sure. Imagine like an AI-powered healthcare system, for example. It could analyze your lifestyle choices and maybe gently suggest some healthier alternatives. But ultimately, the decision to actually follow those suggestions should stay with the individual.
Okay, so it's more like AI is providing info and guidance,
Exactly.
rather than like dictating what we should do, like a super smart advisor, but we still have the final say.
Exactly. The key is transparency and user control. People should know how AI is being used and have the ability to opt out or adjust those settings.
That makes sense. Nobody wants to feel like they're being manipulated by some algorithm, even if it has good intentions. But thinking about all of this, I'm wondering if we do manage to build AI that embodies this whole pluralistic ideal, wouldn't that make it incredibly complex? I mean, wouldn't all those diverse values and priorities inevitably lead to conflict and gridlock?
It's a valid concern. I mean, even in human societies, pluralism can be tough. It requires tolerance, compromise, and a willingness to really engage with different perspectives. But that's where the real beauty of pluralism lies, in its ability to foster creativity and innovation.
So even though it might be messy at times, this clash of ideas and values could actually lead to better solutions.
Exactly. Think about it. When you bring diverse perspectives together, they challenge assumptions, force us to think outside the box, and ultimately lead to more robust and creative outcomes. And the same could be true for AI.
That's a hopeful thought. Instead of being afraid of this complexity, we should see it as a source of new possibilities. But how do we make sure that those possibilities are used for good? How do we prevent this powerful tech from being misused or falling into the wrong hands?
That's where responsible development and regulation come in. We need to set clear ethical guidelines for AI development, ensure transparency and accountability in how these systems are used, and really try to foster public understanding of the benefits and risks.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about the human systems we build around it, the laws, the regulations, the ethical framework.
Exactly. Technology is never neutral. It's always shaped by the values and intentions of the people who create and use it. If we want AI that serves humanity, we need to make sure those values are aligned with our deepest hopes for a just and equitable future.
Wow, this has been quite a deep dive. We've explored how this idea of pluralism, this acceptance of multiple truths, could revolutionize not just the field of AI, but potentially our entire approach to technology, and even society as a whole.
It's an ongoing conversation for sure, and I'm glad we're having it. The future of AI is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to ensure that it's a future that embraces the richness and complexity of human values.
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. As we move further into this age of intelligent machines, let's remember that the most important intelligence is still our own. Our capacity for empathy, compassion, and critical thinking will be essential in guiding this technology towards a future that benefits everyone.
Well said. Let's keep those minds curious and keep these conversations going.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.
It's an ongoing conversation for sure, and I'm glad we're having it. The future of AI is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to ensure that it's a future that embraces the richness and complexity of human values.
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. As we move further into this age of intelligent machines, let's remember that the most important intelligence is still our own. Our capacity for empathy, compassion, and critical thinking will be essential in guiding this technology towards a future that benefits everyone.
Well said. Let's keep those minds curious and keep these conversations going.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.